Lying in the hospital bed after a car accident, my husband Robert and my daughter Miranda started talking as if they thought I was asleep. The truth about the accident. Soon, in a mocking voice, Robert said, "I've always wanted to say this. I'm divorcing you to marry Miranda." Then I would say, "I'm becoming Dad's wife, so you can leave." What an oblivious woman. Anger flared up inside me, unable to move much yet. Some time later, when I was able to get up, the two came to see me again, wanting to take over the company. "Fine, but are you sure?" "I mean, that person is." "What do you mean?" "Speak clearly." "I've always hated that about you." "You're right, I hate you too." "I'm fine with it, but are you sure?" "I mean, that person has already been fired from our company." "My name is Samantha. I run a company dealing imported furniture and I'm 57 years old. Now, I live alone with my husband Robert, who is 7 years younger than me. We have a daughter named Miranda, but since she left home and became independent 10 years ago, it's just been the two of us." When Miranda left, Robert said, "It feels lonely now." With a dissatisfied look, while Miranda, somewhat sarcastically said, "You guys can live just as a couple now. The third wheel is finally leaving." With a smile. At that time, I thought Miranda was being considerate of me. I thought she wanted me to finally be alone with my younger second husband Robert. But I was naive, as I realized later. Now, 18 years into our marriage, I am ready to give up on Robert. The reason lies with him and Miranda. I met Robert 20 years ago when I was 37. He was 30 then. Working as a sales representative for a trading company we did business with. I had just lost my first husband in a sudden accident. I was struggling to manage with a young Miranda, who was still in elementary school. At that time, the company my late husband and I had started was just beginning to take off. It was our dream since our student days. Just when we thought we were heading for a bright future, tragedy struck. So, I had no time to mourn. I worked doubly, no, triply hard to keep our small company afloat, for my late husband's sake. As a result, I couldn't take care of Miranda properly. Miranda started avoiding me. I was never home, always working, when she needed someone to share her grief. I had to beg my parents to take care of Miranda. We were financially stable, but Miranda's heart seemed to be hardening. Honestly, there's a lot I should reflect on. But my mind was consumed with the thought of not letting my late husband down by failing the company. I believed Miranda would understand someday. During these busy days, Robert started pursuing me aggressively. At first, I thought he was joking. He was 7 years younger than me. Not a romantic prospect. But Robert kept approaching me, always noticing when I was tired and offering kind words. Then he said he wanted to join my company. I wondered what his motive was. After all, I was the president. Maybe he was targeting my successful company. But Robert never mentioned the company or money. Instead, he talked about my busy life and my neglected daughter. His attention to detail made him realize from our conversations that my relationship with Miranda was deteriorating. Once, I took Miranda shopping. She was in 6th grade. Already rebellious and reluctant to go out with me. But she knew she needed me to buy the things she wanted. New clothes, games, and other things I didn't even recognize. I was shocked at how much I didn't know about her. And I was stunned to realize she had learned to use me to get what she wanted. Around that time, I happened to run into Robert. Now, I don't know if it was really a coincidence. Anyway, from that day on, we often went out as a trio. Robert frequently invited us and sometimes took Miranda out when I couldn't. Watching him, my feelings for Robert grew. I still loved my late husband. But I was lonely. As a mother, I thought such feelings were inappropriate. But then, Miranda suggested I should marry Robert. I was surprised. I liked him, but hadn't considered remarriage. But Miranda's suggestion made me think she might need a father figure. "Robert wants to marry you," Miranda said, and she didn't stop there. One day, she asked Robert to be her new dad. Robert conveyed this to me with joy. And I couldn't believe it. But Robert said, "I want to create a new family with Miranda too." I agreed to the remarriage. But it took time for me to understand the true meaning of his words. My family and in-laws were skeptical, but Miranda's enthusiasm made a big difference, and we started our new family. 8 years later. When Miranda was a college student, she said she wanted to live on her own. She said she relied too much on Robert at home. At that time, Robert was partly a company employee and partly a house husband. Miranda and Robert have always been close from the beginning. Realizing something, he takes the initiative in doing housework with Miranda. Shopping, cooking, and cleaning. To be honest, I left Robert in charge of Miranda, since he sometimes watches her study during exam time. I expected Robert to oppose Miranda moving out. But he was surprisingly supportive and helped her find a good apartment. Robert and Miranda were more like father and daughter than I was with her. Miranda and my relationship worsened over the years. For instance, teenage girls often don't want their fathers doing their laundry. In our case, Miranda directed that sentiment at me. Her gaze felt like I was something dirty. It wasn't outright fighting, but clearly adversarial. I knew I had neglected her, but it hurt to think she hated me so much. It's not like her father had been very involved with her, either. I was focused on work, but my late husband had been even more so. And he wasn't physically strong. So, Miranda might not have been that attached to him. Maybe she resented me because as her mother, she expected more care from me. I wonder if that's why she became so rebellious towards me. Robert, on the other hand, was a reliable male figure unlike her late father or me, so she clung to him. At least, that's what I could see. But something was happening out of my sight. I realized this on a day when I forced myself to go to work despite feeling unwell. Robert, half employee and half house husband, usually handled errands for me. In terms of position, he is an employee. However, he takes the initiative in doing things around the house that I can't go to during work hours, such as going to the government office or shopping. So, when I returned home that day, I expected Robert to be there. Instead, I found Miranda's things. She must be visiting, I thought. My headache made me move quietly, but I was disturbed by strange noises in the house. Or should I say strange voices? High-pitched, ecstatic voices. Why were they here? Frustrated and nauseous, I pressed my aching head and followed the voices. But as they grew louder, fear gripped me. The voices were coming from Miranda's room. Was there an intruder? I was horrified. Voices from an empty room felt like a horror story. Every movement hurt my head. Still, I approached Miranda's room. The voices were unmistakable, familiar sounds of passion. Could Miranda have brought a man here? Blood rushed to my head, intensifying the pain. For a moment, I wondered if I had any right to say anything. Had I not neglected her all this time? Was I just playing the concerned mother now? As I hesitated, "Miranda, you're truly amazing," a familiar voice said. "Robert and Miranda? What are you talking about? Can't you say something different for once? Or did that work on Mom?" "Mom? Me? What is she talking about?" I tried to focus my nerves. "Yeah, I've been saying it all along. How many times do I have to tell you?" You have always been number one for me. I've said that from the start. That's what a real dad should be like, right? Not just a father figure. That's why I've been telling you not to say those things. How many times do I have to say it? My true love is always Miranda, not that old woman. Then, I heard a burst of laughter. My head hurts. Seriously, how many times do I have to tell you, my princess? No matter how many times you say it, it's never enough. Tell me more, wherever we go, Daddy. My headache worsened, and a chill ran down my spine. My legs trembled, and I almost collapsed. What should I have done in this situation? Should I have barged in and slapped them both? No, in the end, I couldn't do anything back then. All I wanted was to run away from that place. I quietly left, trying not to make any noise, and drove to a random hotel, fighting the urge to vomit. As I battled headaches and nightmares, I thought to myself. Judging by the words, it was Miranda and Robert. The voices and the conversation all pointed to those two, and what they were doing was that of a man and a woman. Was it my fault for not paying enough attention to Miranda? Or was it wrong to have left her with Robert? No, if he says it was from the beginning, then he must have been targeting the elementary school-aged Miranda all along. Moreover, Miranda seemed to be willing from the start. When did their relationship begin? Why hadn't I noticed until now? A few years ago, I could have simply accused Robert of a crime. Now, with both of them being adults, I can't blame their ages. Miranda is already an adult. Still, why did I have to run away? That was my house, and I was the breadwinner. Why did I run away feeling so guilty? I couldn't understand myself. That was about 10 years ago. I have continued to run away from the problem ever since. The two of them seemed strangely happy. If so, maybe it's better to leave it as it is. Or, it could just be a temporary infatuation, and young Miranda might eventually be attracted to someone her own age. Various thoughts swirled in my head, without reaching any conclusion. And then another 10 years passed. Over these 10 years, while I may have turned a blind eye, the two of them never showed any signs of their relationship. Robert never caused any problems as an employee or as a stay-at-home husband. The thought that what I saw was just a hallucination has held back my actions. Perhaps I didn't want to think any further. But recently, an incident happened. I was driving back from an inspection to visit a client. As I entered the highway, my car started acting strangely. It felt like the brakes suddenly weren't working properly. I knew I had to stop and check the car immediately. Just as I thought that, the steering suddenly malfunctioned. My car veered off to the right and crashed into the curb. It's terrifying to think what would have happened without the airbag. The impact was so severe. I lost consciousness. The next thing I knew, I was lying in a hospital bed. "Are you all right?" a familiar voice asked. It was Kayla, an old friend and our family lawyer. "Something terrible happened. But for now, just rest." If she's saying that, then something terrible must have happened, I thought. At the time, my whole body was in a cast, and I was in too much pain to react properly. For a while, I was preoccupied with pain and surgeries, unable to think about anything else. When I finally had the time to think about what had happened, those two came to the hospital. Seeing them together felt strange. "She's asleep," Robert grumbled irritably in a tone he would never use in front of me. "Isn't it just perfect, Daddy?" Miranda said in a sultry voice. They continued talking in the same tone as before. I felt like sighing in exasperation. They've continued their relationship for the past 10 years. They've deceived me for a total of 18 years. Taking advantage of my inability to move, I pretended to be asleep, intending to let them keep talking. Man, she has such bad luck. Yeah, Daddy. Even though Daniel adjusted the car as you ordered, she still didn't die as planned. How persistent. Adjusted? Daniel is the skilled auto mechanic who always serviced my car. I had recently sent it in for an inspection. What does this mean? I strained to listen more closely. Hey, do you think maybe Daniel isn't as good as you thought? No, that's not it. Daniel might be bad at business, but he's top-notch as a mechanic. In every sense. Robert was the one who introduced Daniel to me. They've known each other for a long time. We've always sent our cars to him and appreciated his excellent work. For someone like me who travels frequently for work, my car is essential. Trust is important, right? She probably never even thought Daniel's work could be so bad. Our plan was for the car to suddenly stop, overturn, catch fire, and end it right there. Plan? What plan is he talking about? Well, that's fine. If she recovers, there will be other chances. That's right. Even if things don't go as planned, if her body doesn't work anymore, it's my turn. Miranda's laughter echoed. I wished you would have said it's my turn. No way. Daddy, you don't do much at the company, do you? Well, that's because I'm a house husband. My chest ached. It was my fault that it turned out this way. But I was shocked by what he said next. Besides, you hardly do anything as a house husband either. As long as it's not noticed, it's fine. Not noticed? What are these two talking about? This woman doesn't notice anything. Even that we've been hiring a housekeeper. I've always wanted to tell her, I'm divorcing you to marry Miranda. Then I'd say, get out because I'm marrying Daddy. What a clueless woman. Miranda mocked and laughed, urging Robert to leave. Apparently, they thought I was still asleep. After confirming that they were gone, I contacted Kayla. A week later, Robert and Miranda came together again. Even though I was awake, they continued to cling to each other openly. Driving around everywhere is what got you into this mess. Miranda's blatant hostility almost made me show my anger. But I managed to suppress it. I needed to draw out as much information from them as possible. Seeing me silent, Miranda continued. Well, this means you'll be retiring soon. Your body probably won't heal properly. Still silent, she seemed to get irritated. You're not saying anything? Fine. But it's time for you to retire as president of the company. I never even thought about retiring. I answered clearly. And what are you talking about? I thought you came to visit me. I'm saying this. Miranda changed her attitude and clung to Robert. I'm saying Daddy and I will run your company for you. Huh? What kind of joke is this? I'm serious. Miranda triumphantly stepped forward. You can't move your body freely anymore, right? So it's only natural that I, your daughter, take over the company. Or maybe Daddy can do it. Either way, it's the same. Right. Daddy should have the right since he's your husband. But I'll be by his side, just like always. I listened to Miranda's chatter for a while. She talked a lot. But listening to her for too long became annoying. Fine, but are you sure? I mean, that man is. What are you trying to say? Spit it out. I've always hated that about you. Yes, I hate you now too. I said. Miranda was surprised. What did you just say? I admit I was wrong for doing nothing. But it's too late now. If you want him, you can have him. Miranda, you're an adult now. But are you sure? That man has already been fired from our company. They both looked stunned.
What do you mean?
It means what it means. I took out my smartphone and made a quick call. Kayla entered the hospital room as if on cue. Kayla, a smart friend from high school who became a lawyer, had always been reliable. While I married and started running the company with my husband, the company grew, and we needed a legal advisor, so I asked Kayla. She is now a trustworthy friend and business partner. Kayla handed a piece of paper to Miranda. Miranda, you recently filed this divorce petition on behalf of Samantha, didn't you? It's been duly processed, so as long as Samantha has no objections, the divorce with Robert is finalized. In other words, Kayla added, Robert is already a stranger to Samantha. Both the company and the assets. Robert's expression suddenly turned grim as he grabbed Miranda's collar with both hands.
Divorce papers? Why would you do such a thing? Well, if I'm going to marry you, Daddy, you need to divorce this woman first. That's why I did it for you in advance. On your behalf. That's all there is to it. So why are you looking at me like that?
Kayla laughed as she watched the two of them. What's so funny? Miranda, you just admitted it, right? That's considered the crime of forgery. It's good timing for us though, I appreciate it. Appreciate it? Miranda looked puzzled. I had someone investigate. You two have been together for a long time, haven't you? You knew? I couldn't help but laugh. Knew? You were talking right in front of me the other day. I pretended to be asleep because I couldn't move and it was too much trouble. And with that, I passed the baton to Kayla. Yes, after you two left, I investigated. And found quite a lot, not just the forgery you mentioned right now. What right do you have to snoop around our business? I'm her husband. I'm a business partner. And the papers have already been filed, so legally, you're no longer her husband. Meaning even if something happened to Samantha here, Robert, you wouldn't get a single penny. It seemed Miranda finally understood the implications of what she had done. She pushed the stunned Robert aside, stood in front of me, and shouted,
Wait a minute! Even if Dad is no longer your husband, I'm still your daughter. If something happens to you, I should have the right to inherit.
I let out a big sigh. Unfortunately, even if something happens to me, you won't get a single bit of my inheritance. I made a will stating as much.
A will? You made one of those?
I'd be crazy not to. You two were having that conversation right in front of me, after all. Then I laughed.
And that's not all. I didn't want to believe it, but you two have been deceiving me for 10 years.
At that, Miranda suddenly burst out laughing. More than 10 years. You only got to marry Dad because of me in the first place. What do you mean? Robert's face changed at Miranda's words. Wait a minute. If it was 10 years ago, you were both adults, so... No. Dad's target was me from the very beginning. Not you. Seems like she's revealed your misdeeds by talking too much, Robert. Kayla's voice rang out brightly. If you're saying Miranda was the target, when was this? Elementary school or so? You were after Miranda from that young an age? Dad has always loved me. He married this woman just to stay close to me because he fell in love with me. Miranda ignored Robert's attempts to stop her and continued. I see. So when exactly did this romantic relationship between you two start? It must have been when I was in 9th grade. Dad was young and handsome, he still is, but he was even better back then. He did anything I asked and taught me how to have fun too. Is that so? But you know that's considered a crime, right? What? Miranda flared her nostrils in anger.
Crime? It's the freedom to love. What are you saying?
Miranda, regardless of how you feel about it, it's not something you do to a child. That is definitely a crime.
Who cares about that now? Besides, the divorce has gone through, so we can get married now.
No, Kayla denied. I said I investigated a lot, didn't I? That's enough. Come on in. At Kayla's cue, in walked the police and one other person. It was Daniel.
Why did you go to the police?
Robert's voice trembled. Daniel took a step forward.
Yes, I told them everything. Stop it already. I didn't want to do that kind of work either. But you said I needed the money and slapped my face with a wad of cash. Said I'd have tuition coming up. Looks like you said everything.
Yes, this man has confessed. The police reinforced Daniel's words. And about the plan you two concocted as well. Robert's face turned even more sickly while Miranda gritted her teeth. It seems the police had also felt suspicious when I asked Kayla to investigate the two. Clear evidence of abnormal maintenance was left on the car that didn't catch fire. The police said they had many doubts at the time of the on-site investigation. When they started suspecting the mechanic, Kayla and the police discussed it and later came to me. I told them everything about Daniel who did the maintenance and the conversation between Robert and Miranda. From there, the police moved swiftly. They quietly took Daniel into custody and had him explain the situation. Apparently, the maintenance company they regularly used had seen its business deteriorate in recent years, and on top of that, they were strapped due to their child's rising tuition fees. Robert took advantage of that. Believe it or not, he paid a huge sum to have my car tampered with. I frequently took my car, which I drove often, to Daniel for inspections. It seems that during those times, he gradually adjusted the brake fatigue and set it up like a time bomb so the steering wheel would randomly stop working. This man certainly had impressive skills. Enough to be able to do something like that. But even I didn't want to do such a thing. I've been working on that car for so long. Cars are my life. And yet, to do something that would send it to hell. Daniel said, covering his face with his hands. Almost every night, I was haunted by nightmares. Confessing like this has been a relief. I'll return all the money too. My kid told me we don't need money obtained by doing something like that. They said they don't need to go to college using that kind of money. In response to Daniel, Miranda muttered, "Useless man," as if spitting it out. Then,
"What did you say?"
This time Daniel retorted to Miranda with a biting tone. The police stopped the two of them and said, "We'd like to have a little chat with you two as well," urging them to come along. However, the moment Miranda heard that, she grabbed Robert's hand and suddenly started running. Everyone froze for a moment at the sudden action, but the police, except for one securing Daniel, also started running after Miranda and Robert. The sound of running echoed loudly through the hospital corridor. I thought they would be caught immediately. But Miranda's momentum was tremendous, and she kicked off her difficult-to-run-in shoes partway and dashed to the car parked in the parking lot.
So fast! Those two are already outside.
Kayla opened the window, looked down and told me. But then a violent sound rang out from outside.
I think they crashed into the gate. The car!
Kayla's voice resounded in my ears.
That car definitely didn't have airbags.
Daniel also turned pale. He probably realized right away that it was the sound of Miranda's car. Miranda's car was a compact one that she liked the style of, but hardly considered safety. And of all things, crashing into the hospital gate. Causing trouble again, I found myself saying. Towards Miranda, for whom I no longer felt any affection, those were the only words that came to mind. Since they had deliberately caused a traffic accident. It's karma, isn't it? I found myself murmuring. Kayla reported to me the scene of the police rushing to the site, with rescue teams and hospital staff running over.
By the way, what do you want to do? Should we invalidate that divorce?
Kayla suddenly asked me. I couldn't help but laugh.
Let's leave it be. Isn't it great that they divorced me on their own?
Kayla and I laughed about it together. Afterwards, I heard the two were transported to the hospital with serious injuries, and once they stabilized to some extent, they were transferred to the prison hospital. Apparently, Miranda had flown out at a tremendous speed, and when she saw a route bus coming in, she sharply turned the steering wheel, resulting in a violent collision with the gate. While Miranda managed to survive, she was left with indelible scars on her face, and moreover, she had hit a critical area. The strong impact to her spine meant she would need long-term rehabilitation to move properly. As for Robert, I heard rumors that he also suffered a severe blow to his lower body, making it difficult for him to walk, and that he lost functionality as a man. The fact that the two took planned actions to take my life was serious, so it seems they won't be able to avoid actual prison time. They're already in the prison hospital, but it will probably take considerable time before they get out. As for Robert, it's not just this incident. Because Miranda carelessly blabbed so much, I heard he's also being pursued for additional crimes related to sexual offenses against children and brainwashing kids. I did go to visit Miranda afterwards, but there was not a shred of remorse. Through the acrylic panel, she glared at me resentfully with eyes peeking out from her bandaged face. I don't know where things went wrong, but at the very least, I had already shed my motherly face towards Miranda, who tried to take my life. Even if she becomes free in the future, I don't think I'll want to do anything for Miranda.
Welcome back, President.
When I showed my face at the company for the first time in a while, the employees rushed to present me with flowers to celebrate my return, each wanting to be first. It must have been really tough. The veteran employees were moved to tears as they said that. Before my return, all sorts of things were reported in the media, with various rumors flying around. Within the company too, there were voices questioning what kind of mother I was. And some people quit. The ones who stayed were all people who trusted me when it came to work. Thank you, everyone, for staying. Any veteran employee knows well how desperately you have always worked to protect us. The veteran employees told me that out of genuine feeling.
We joined attracted by your sense. It has nothing to do with the president's family.
On the other hand, the young employees evaluated me purely on the work front and apparently decided to stay. I realize anew that this company of elite few is more precious to me than my blood-related family.
That's right, everyone feels that way.
Kayla, who came with me, also said that while patting my shoulder. The only thing I have left now is just this company and those involved with it. From now on, I want to live cherishing this company with all my heart.